Hi, Valerie. We're going to get started. We're already live.
Yeah.
So gargle it whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's start. We're starting without a quorum.
No, we are. Mr. Casey, Mr.
Oh, yes.
Strauss.
Great to see you. You saved the day, man. You saved the day. We are not starting without a quorum.
Same to you.
Yeah, this is great. Give a second for Steve to just get settled. So, welcome to Ossining. Valerie's your name?
Valerie is she's
Yeah.
the village planner before.
Oh,
She is the company also for the town.
oh,
So,
wow.
and she is a village resident.
So great, great.
Yes, but thank you for welcoming me.
Well, if I could just say to the group, this is my first day as chairman. And once we get done with the applicant, I don't know how long it takes. Obviously, we don't want to take longer than it should. If I could just speak with all of you for a few minutes afterwards, it doesn't have to be on the record. That's some things I'd like to bounce off the wall with. Okay, so I think, do we make a motion to open?
You don't have to. I think we have our applicant here. It's 6367 Central Avenue,
Yep.
known as the Olive Opera House. And we have John Fry. And we can go.
All right. Do I have to gavel it?
If you wish to. Go right ahead. Hi,
Oh, yes.
John.
Hi,
Am I in?
We're in.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, John.
Good to see everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So Valerie, should I share my screen or
Yeah, why don't
why
you?
don't I do that? Because I think I have some broader views. Trying to get to full page view. Full screen. Okay. Since we last visited together last month, very little has changed or been revised or refined compared to the overall presentation. What the good news has been over the last month is that the Olive Opera House received its full $1.5 million ask in the DRI grant pool. So we're obviously very excited about that news. As you may recall, there were two items that really hinged, and pardon me for jumping ahead because I'll scroll back in a sec. There were two items that really hinged upon knowing what the grant yield was going to be. And I don't know why it jumped forward. Give me one sec. Okay, please stay still. I hope it doesn't jump forward again. If you recall, oh, it did.
1.5 million, John?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Congrats.
And so part of the full grant ask, I can't get it to stop on this image. I want it to stop on this image. So I'm crossing my fingers. Were the solar panels and the extent of the equipment, roof-mounted equipment area here, which is on the west-facing, northwest corner, west-facing elevation, behind the existing elevator penthouse volume. And then, as I mentioned, whether or not the budget was going to allow for the pursuit of solar panels. So now we know the answer is yes. The equipment, roof-mounted equipment, is going to be approximately the footprint we shared at last month's meeting, and the solar array will be a small grouping on the low slope roof to the south and the much larger grouping to the west. And as we talked about, discussed, and I think you concurred at our last meeting, the roof form, the hip roof form that's on top of the volume is only really seen from very few vantage points. Further up the intersection from the 5 points coming down Spring Street, you get a glimpse of the hip roof to the south. No one really has views of the hip roof to the west unless you're about 200 yards down Central Avenue. So we feel like those are very benign elements in the big picture of the Olive House aesthetics. The second item that we pursued, and let me see if I can continue to scroll to that item, was a suggestion of a product that Adam shared that was a peel away. I think the product's name is Peel Away. I'm struggling to find the actual image here. It was a product that was used in on this building prior to this color paint. It's a fairly empathetic product to the brick itself. It's low impact, not harmful chemicals. It's not 100%. It's not guaranteed to remove 100% of paint, but it does a remarkable job. I would say at 90% of the removal. And we already know that the remaining paint, the wisps of paint that remain on the building today, we really don't know to what extent we're going to be able to remove all of that, but we're going to make an attempt using the Peel Away product that Adam suggested. So I think those are, other than those two items, everything else is as was shared at the last meeting. The process today, as it stands today, is that we're actually going to visit informally or initially with the village board on Wednesday at their work session to discuss the awning, overhang, sidewalk easement mechanics. And then hopefully we will be, or we plan on being before the planning board at the end of January to discuss a parking waiver that's required for the project, to discuss the primary aesthetics of the awning itself, and hopefully have a referral from this body. And then some miscellaneous planning issues regarding the sidewalk repairs, etc. I'm happy to walk through the presentation again or answer specific questions.
Okay, thank you. And I'm right in assuming the drawings are the same as the ones you gave us the first time, last meeting.
The architectural drawings are the same. What has been added are additional information in this slide set, which is primarily meant for the planning board. But all the other elements are, this page is the same, this page is the same. As you recall, we've mapped out where our land use and approval steps lie ahead. This page is the same. And I think I can't recall if these images were included in the last presentation, but these are, these were inspirations all along of relevant projects around the region, and visual and aesthetic cues we've taken from a number of these projects. Obviously, the one on the top row center, you're very familiar with. So we feel like we're in that bandwidth of bridging modern notions with an historic structure in very subtle and we hopefully sophisticated ways, really in simple lines and profiles. So I'm happy to answer questions, additional questions.
Can we open the board up to questions then? Anyone want to start? Anybody have any immediately? Okay, well, I have a few. I'm going to relate back to the last meeting we had. And I recall maybe mentioning, I didn't see anything about the cornice being restored or repaired or painted or whatever. Have you added any information about that? Because it wasn't on, as I recall, your drawings last time.
We've added the notations regarding the repair and painting of the cornice. We've actually added, and I don't know that they're in this.
I'm just asking if it's on this drawing.
I don't think they're on the drawings that are in your possession.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like this picture, well, it says replace, oh, well, there is a note up here. on your
Yes,
graph. I don't recall seeing that before, but you're like replacing the dentals or something that are missing in the brackets?
exactly. And we've added, so in the period between our last visit, in conjunction with
Oh, yeah.
getting the news of the grant funding, we've added this additional information
Yes.
as a follow-up to our dialogue at the last meeting.
I think it's very helpful, and you've actually raised then, or answered a question I was going to raise now, because I don't recall seeing this the last time, was the left-hand corner at the bottom, different conditions of exterior brick, existing brick, and this settles, I think, the issue of what brick are you aiming for after the treatment, and I guess it's the one on the far left, right?
It is the one on the far left. The example of the peel away product above that gives you a sense of, it's a phenomenal product, but it does not remove 100% of the paint unless you use a more aggressive methodology after that. And so our notion is the brick will be, cleaner than it is today, but we're not proposing that it's going to be pristine, brand new, every shade, every shadow, every wisp of paint removed.
Yeah, it's like a palimpsest, if that's a term, when you used to see layers of paint sort of eroded on a old stucco building or something,
Yep.
different color. So it's going to maybe be like that, I suppose, which
Yes.
in my opinion is, certainly fine. And then, so that dark band of brick I see at the bottom of the building, that on your corner shot there's some really dark brick. Yeah, right there where you put the cursor. Well, even darker at the bottom, unless that's a shadow being, yeah, right there.
Yeah, that's shadow.
Okay, that's a shadow. So yeah,
Where you were headed is, I think, where I thought you were headed, is there are clearly areas here that are more robust in color and reflecting closer to existing conditions. There's another area down here. We feel like these areas and these areas and these areas, we're going to be able to get back to a more uniform color as these patches,
okay.
but not perfect, right? We don't want to overpromise perfect, and frankly, we don't really want to get to perfect.
Right. You're not sandblasting it or anything like that to really get
No,
up. You're doing a gentle, I think you're saying a gentle treatment of it.
yes,
You repointing the brick too? I don't remember if that was
yes,
part of
there are going to be areas clearly. Some areas are in need of extensive repointing. As you might imagine, most of them are at the sidewalk level and 5 or 6 feet above. And so in this area where you see my cursor, there's significant repointing. But for example, in these upper areas, the brick is very solid and the mortar is very solid. So there's going to be selected repointing.
Right. Okay. The other thing from last meeting, I recall, and I'm trying to get another look here at the photograph, and it's not, I guess, a big issue. It was just more like a graphical thing, is that your proposed elevations almost seem to indicate new windows because the buttons are very bold. And you're just doing work to the windows behind the glass, right?
That is correct. Yes, the graphically, probably on the elevations, the mullions and muntins are graphically a little more aggressive than they appear in reality. The additional glazing, primarily for thermal performance enhancement, will happen on the interior.
Yeah.
They will obviously lend to improved acoustical mitigation for the large performance space.
Yeah.
But all of that happens behind the current windows.
For whatever it's worth, I don't know, manage expectations. At first I thought, oh, wow, you're changing all the windows. And it seems such a bold representation. And I think I stand by my suggestion. If you could just graphically tune it a little bit, tone it down, and maybe it'll alter people's perceptions and they won't have a different expectation. Although, even though it's very clearly noted elsewhere on your drawings that you're not doing new windows.
Right.
The other thing is, I think you're still missing the roof plan of the new canopy that, as you pointed out at the last meeting, is not, is a polygonal shape or rhombus or something. It's not a rectangular plan, right? That's why you had 5 feet, 1.5 inches projecting, right?
Yeah, let me go back. I think we do have a plan where we've dimensioned that, but oh, here it is.
Yeah, I see it now. I didn't see this. I don't think I saw this before, but.
No, because after you asked the question, we went back and put this information on.
Okay, so the only thing that's in conformance, if I was right about my recollection, is 4 feet is the max for the sign. So you need to get also, I guess, technically an approval from planning to exceed that 4-foot dimension, or your signs are going to be.
No, that's part of the dialogue, both Wednesday night and at the end of the month. I mean, obviously, our position, easy for us to say, is that we're going to characterize it as an average dimension here, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 feet 4 inches, if I recall.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Okay, well, so if we approve it, if we can do it without necessarily inferring we're granting you an exemption, it's all subject to the planning board doing that.
Yeah, we're cognizant and accept that notion.
Valerie, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the planning board won't move forward with their approvals until the HPC actually gives this particular application an approval. And then clearly the planning board's also not going to move forward with their approvals until the Board of Trustees also has provided their approvals. So it's a little bit of a stepping process.
Okay, I think, am I right? The only thing maybe missing, you're very clear now on the brick in a way, as you said, you didn't have information last time. Is the only thing missing some kind of specific sample of the new material at the entryways where you're going to have the main entrance for the tenants above?
Yes, we're happy to submit that.
Yeah, the gray material and the black. I think you had, oh, there are pictures of it. Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah, I know what I'm scrolling. The scrolling function on my desktop is being very fussy. But we have the material. We haven't indicated on the drawings, but we do have samples that we can share. And I'm guessing we bring those to the planning department.
That would be correct, John.
And so if we made an approval, I hope you can understand, at least I've been to some other HPC meetings where they really are very specific in requesting a sample firsthand to look at. I mean, an approval from the board, if we granted it, could be pending or subject to final approval of a sample.
Yes, yeah, we're comfortable, appreciate that and are comfortable with that.
Yeah, that I think would be in keeping with precedents before, at least ones I've seen.
Dan, what we could do is you could have two of you folks come here, look at what the samples are, and if you're okay with it, then that's fine.
All right, well, fine. Whatever makes it easy for you, and still keeps us within the confines of what we're supposed to do. And by the just one last question, just occurred to me, the stucco on on the north and the west side, is that the same color as existing, or what's that gonna be?
Yes, I mean, if I characterized it as a warm beige, let me see if we have that photograph.
Yeah, I don't remember what it looks like now.
Yeah, the stucco today is a facsimile of the color that you see graphically represented.
So you
It's,
want to match the color that's there, you're not changing the color.
no, we're not changing the color. I mean, I think,
Does it say that on the drawing to match existing color, just to be clear, or should we could stipulate it? Could you go back to your stucco color, your elevation?
yeah, I scrolled past it accidentally.
Yeah, Existing stucco to be clean, repaired, and coated, I guess, to match existing, I guess.
Yes, we can add to match existing.
Yeah, okay. And the roof is new too? I forgot now.
Roof is very new. The new roof was repaired as a result of the 2018 fire. So the roof has about 30 years left. It's
Right.
very new.
Wonderful. So you're all set. Will the solar panels, you can get solar panels that have like the very clear framing. You can see the panel, but sometimes the frame around each panel is a darker color or a lighter color.
Yep.
Is this going to be, do you know yet if your panels are going to be, to the extent anybody could ever see this, do you know if your panels are going to be like, when they're set up, just like a uniform black array, or you're going to see like chrome or stainless steel, aluminum, not chrome, but stainless steel or aluminum joints in between that are, look silver or white or something?
You're referring to the background panel color here on the brand.
No, I'm actually talking about your solar panels.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The solar
The
panels.
solar panels,
Oh, the solar panels, I'm sorry.
I've seen some that's totally black, which is what we're getting on State Street for the, what was the name of that?
The Hill House.
The Hill
They're there
House.
already, yeah.
And that's, just basically uniform black, because the framing around each of the panels it matches, but I've been pressed as closely as possible to the actual solar portion. But then I've also seen others that, you can actually see a distinctive framing around each panel.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And we can specify a black frame as opposed to an anodized aluminum frame.
Yeah, exactly.
around
Yeah.
each panel.
I mean, and if we're gonna see them as precedent, that's the way we did the last building as precedent.
I concur. I mean, we prefer the aesthetics of a uniform panel and frame, especially when they're grouped together, so you don't get the grid articulation of anodized aluminum.
Yeah, okay.
John, can I make a request? I think that some of the drawings that we've looked at tonight were not within what we got.
That is correct.
Send them to Jamie Kane. That can then get circulated to all the folks here and make it also easier when we put together the certificate of appropriateness.
Perfect. Will do.
Thanks.
I had a question, and if this was discussed at the last meeting, then I can don't have to, but on the drawings, there was an LED sign in the corner.
Yes.
Right.
Can you speak a bit about that and how, some of those signs.
Excuse me, Steve, you're
can
talking
be
about the
a bit-
left, under that window on the
Yeah,
left? Yeah.
right. Some of those can be garish and kind of not appropriate, or can you speak to what that would look like? And
So the LED panel itself they're very sophisticated and benign. It's really the media that is broadcast through the panel. And I cognizant and clearly agree with if it's advertising and obnoxious text and etc., you're right. It could be very very unappealing. So the idea of this is essentially a media art panel, that it would be representative of various events that occur in the building. And it's easy for me to sit here and say in a very artful way, that's the intent. Art is, often whatever the final imagery that's utilized from time to time, it's impossible to say that some might not be happy with it but
But
you
it
know,
changes. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's something that's not programmed for life. It changes whenever you want to change it, right?
yes. I mean, that's the intent, that's the idea.
Okay, yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about. Some of these signs,
I do. And we, you know, we don't want, you know, a bad convenience store graphic festival on the corner.
Maybe that they're doing that to attract attention to the building and they got to build business. So I don't know. I mean, is it the kind of thing people complain? I mean, if you had some erotic photography on that sign for whatever reason, you know, I guess people could complain and you change it. Is that maybe what the worst case scenario could be? I don't know.
We would, speaking for our clients, I'm sure if there was resolution language that tamped down any notions of erotic photography.
I'm for it though. I mean, it's not, but I think others might not be. So, yeah.
Valerie, that's probably more a planning board because it would go to the lumens and in terms of everything like that. It's really less an HPC issue in terms of, or I don't even want to say it's necessarily planning, but in terms, you know, I don't want to start getting into First Amendment issues here, but I think
Well, right, I was gonna say, I don't know about the content, but in terms of, because that's usually protected by First Amendment rights, and I'm not the lawyer in the room, but in terms of size and you know, and I think in terms of materials, that's already written in the zoning code, and we can take a look at that. I think, John, I don't know if those details were submitted as part of the planning board application or not.
I
If
don't
they're
even,
not,
quite
if you
frankly.
can,
I can't, we had so many applications that were submitted in a short period of time, but we can certainly follow up with additional information and I'll go back and look at which package the planning board has in their lap.
okay.
I think it's this package, but I can't say for sure.
All right. Any more questions, Steve? No. Okay. Are there any more questions? I don't have any more myself. Does anyone else? Should we make a motion to vote, or is it?
you can make you can entertain a motion to grant the certificate of appropriateness, which you may want to discuss among yourselves, or if there are any particular conditions that you want to put. I know you want to be able to see
Well,
samples.
yeah, I mean, okay, we could maybe recap that. John, we'll just recap. You know, if we vote to approve, which is obviously subject to the vote, but certainly I think you're in agreement that it's subject to seeing the final samples of the gray and black material at the entryways. I think you're also acknowledging that the solar panels will have black trim, not a contrasting border. And we already talked about the brick. You're doing what you can with the brick. And also subject, our approval would be subject to the planning board granting you the exemption of that 4 foot. I think it's 4 feet. You correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a maximum projection, right, for the canopy, and we're not empowered to in any way grant that. But certainly from a design point of view, assuming the planning board would grant it, we'd be fine with it too. It's subject to a vote, obviously. I don't know if there would be any more.
There was one other. I'm sorry, Valerie, go ahead.
I have one quick question. If for some reason the canopy, if the planning board does not grant that, and I gotta check to make sure that they have the ability to grant that waiver versus it needing a zoning board of appeals.
I
But
would propose that, not to interrupt Valerie, but if the actual projection became problematic for whatever reason or a combination of reasons, we would maintain the same concept and just keep pushing it in towards the building until we reached the magic number.
right, that was my question, if the board would be open to not having the applicant come back if the awning itself has to, the depth of the awning needs to change.
I think we'll be fine with that, Valerie, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. We just don't want to infer that we're somehow approving something we know is subject to special approval. That's all.
And folks, there was one other thing, and it really, Catherine, you probably remember. with the one building that was on Main Street where we had the peel away,
Mhm.
we actually had members of the board go and see as it was applied,
Oh, all right.
just to make sure that basically, because in that case, if you remember, that building was purple, so we wanted to make sure that when it came off, it didn't look awful.
It's kind of like an advising consent.
Just to
vote.
sort of, just basically that when it's gonna happen, you folks are notified and one or two of you could go and look at it to see
Yeah, we
what
could,
goes
you
on.
know,
In that case, it was a little, at one point, the former chair of the HPC, not Adam, but before
Yeah.
that, wanted to actually get up on the scaffold, and I had to explain to him that there's a certain liability that we're not gonna, sorry. But if you wish to do that, that would be fine. So that could be a condition that could be put in if you wanted to just basically observe it, at least a small area to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Well, I mean, you know, on the, no pun intended, on the surface of it, it sounds like it's a reasonable idea, though I just wonder if we're taking on some kind of, responsibility or liability to maybe impose I don't know, more extensive scope than they were prepared to pay for or something. I mean, I'm open to it, yeah. I mean, I just don't know to what point, we take over from the architect of record
All
to
that happened,
direct
all that
work.
happened in the prior case was the two members went, observed it, and essentially said it's.
So we
it's fine.
advised.
That's
yeah.
all it was.
Oh, that's fine,
That's all it
yeah,
was.
yeah. Well, that's a very, I mean, John, I assume if that's, I shouldn't ask you if that's okay with you, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
we would love that. And, I mean, it's all going to be a working together process because we would normally start with small hidden test areas or inconspicuous test areas normally anyway, so somebody didn't start in a robust manner, a contractor, and half the building is done and we're all standing there going, oh my, this
Yeah.
is what we imagined.
yeah, the only concern maybe putting it on the table is, we'd hate to be in a position where, you might be waiting for one of us or both of us or three of us, whatever, to show up and now you claim that we're delaying the job or
Oh,
somebody's.
no, I can't imagine. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I can't imagine that circumstance would unfold.
Great, okay, well, that's a wonderful idea, sure.
We can put that in. If there's, I think we have a good sense of what the conditions are. So if you want to, someone can make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness based upon the conditions that we have discussed. Then we need someone to second that, and then you folks can vote. So I leave it up, someone has to make the motion.
We make a motion to consider the certificate of appropriateness,
Subject to the conditions that we
subject to
discussed.
conditions we asked. Will anybody second that? Thank you. So shall we vote
All in
now?
favor?
Oh. yeah,
Aye.
right.
John, certificate of appropriateness has been granted.
Terrific. We look forward to visiting with everyone more and actually showing you around as things really get ramped up.
Well, thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
I'm glad you added those extra drawings. That was very, very good idea.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Valerie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm really
Okay.
looking forward to
That
it.
concludes the